everyone to another episode of the Podcast of the Fallen. We are here today covering Memories of Ice chapters 5 and 6. Matt just pumped his fist in the air because these chapters are awesome.
Mainly 6. We can skip over 5. I thought it was
Yes,
underrated.
we
or
can skip
overrated.
over 5. It's definitely not my longest chapter summary by far that I've ever done.
I think you could cut it a lot shorter because it was completely overrated, I think. Just kidding.
Yes. I mean, maybe we can just announce this now. We've caught up to where D&J's Epic Quest is in their one chapter a week journey through Malazan, and we will be collaborating with them on their podcast for chapter 8 because Derek messaged me and was like, hey, we're almost at about the same point and we want to collaborate. What chapter around here would you guys want to do? And I saw what 8 was, in chapter 8, and I was like, okay, we got to do that one.
Yep.
So
8 or bust.
I don't think there's anything else, and this is a long chapter, so maybe we should just jump in.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Chapter 5. Talk the Younger suggests a hilltop to camp on. Envy flirts with him and Talk resists. Tool begins making arrows and Talk watches with interest. Tool tells more of Lady Envy and how she used to travel with Animander Rake and Osric. He also says that Sanu blocked his first attacks with half-drawn blades. When asked why the Segula are here, Sanu says that they are the army sent to face the Panion Doman for continuing to send priests to their island. Mok is the third among the Segula, and Sanu is only 14 years old. During dinner preparations, the Rule challenges Tool, spurring Envy to tell the tale of when Animander Rake visited the Segula island and fought his way to the 7th position. Tool beats the Rule with the flat of his blade, but is cut up in the process. Whiskey Jack, Quick Ben, and Mallet meet on the same hill as in Guardians of the Moon after the Siege of Pale. Quick and Mallet describe Perron's affliction and that he's near ascendancy. Quick doesn't tell the commander about Burn and thinks about the fact that there have been other night chills through history. Whiskey Jack and Dujek meet and discuss their situation. Quick Ben will contact the mercenary company in Capistan. The commanders don't like fighting alongside the T'lan Imass, and Whiskey Jack will not stand aside if Calor tries to kill Silver Fox. The Maib, Corlat, and Brood discuss the nature of Silver Fox and offer theories as to why she grows so quickly and steals her mother's life force. Brood is willing to support the Malazans in their efforts to bring Tattersail to the fore. The army representatives gather, and Kruppe shows up on his own. His role in Silver Fox's birth is revealed to everyone, and Cole comes behind as the actual official representative of Druidistan. Kruppe stole the council's horses. He exchanges words with Crone and makes everyone laugh. Everyone sits at a table made from a wagon bed, and Kruppe takes over the agenda of meeting the army's supply needs. He suggests the Trigal Trade Guild, and Cole accuses him of being an investor. Crone sneaks underneath Brood's table and hears Bridgeburners discussing a reading of the Deck of Dragons that implies 7 cities is about to rise in rebellion. She looks up at the bottom of the table and sees eyes staring back at her. Perron asks the Maib where to find the table, and she walks him to the tent, commenting that she is pleased Tattersail is showing herself. Crone stumbles out of the tent and recognizes Perron, and Spindle realizes something as well. Perron orders the 4 Bridgeburners to take the table back to Brood's tent. Perron makes his way to the Bridgeburner camp and learns that Kruppe and Cole will be attached as envoys to their army. Moranth will take the Bridgeburners to the base of the Barghast Mountains and attempt to negotiate with them to relieve Capistan. Animander Rake arrives and sends the camp into chaos, and Perron declines a final meeting with Silver Fox. After getting one of the most badass descriptions of a character of all time for Rake, Calor attempts to have Rake kill Silver Fox, and Brood, Corlat, and Whiskey Jack make their intentions known. Rake tries to discover more of Silver Fox with his sorcery, but is swatted aside. Weapons are drawn, and suddenly Kruppe is drawn into the air by a flying table. Perron vanishes from the Bridgeburner camp and appears before the leaders, recognizing the face on the underside of the table as himself. Quick Ben arrives and suggests that no one act just yet with so much unknown power flowing around. Perron finds himself in the Azath house in Druidistan. He sees Ralak Nam and Vorkon still asleep in the entryway. Raist appears and guides him to a place filled with cards of the Deck of Dragons. He travels into one, the Hold of Beasts, and sees a dwelling with 2 thrones. It is the original origin of the power of the Imass before their ritual that made them immortal. They have outlasted their own gods and are lost. He steps back and sees Burn, sickening with a crippled god chained to her. A little less than 2,000 years ago, she chose to sleep and forged all her power into a hammer, the one wielded by Caladan Brood. If he chose, he could break the chains of the crippled god, which would mark the end of the world, but he defies Burn and chooses not to use it. Raist asks if Perron has found knowledge a blessing or a curse. Perron returns to his body, where tensions have lessened. Brood welcomes Rake to his camp, and Quick Ben offers to take the table down. Kruppe asks if anyone else is hungry. The Maib attempts to run away from the scene, wishing to end her life, but her body fails her. Crone and Corlat come to her and offer support, which the Maib resents. Caladan Brood and Animander Rake speak in private about Brood's burden. If Burn dies, the crippled god will be able to reach all other warrens and destroy sorcery. Brood tells Rake of Silver Fox and the Imass, and there's silence when he is done. Quick Ben wants to study the new card more. Calor interrupts the conversation, and Quick drops him into a hole in the ground. He, Whiskey Jack, and Silver Fox quickly leave the scene. Whiskey Jack and Quick Ben speak. Moranth took the bridge burners away, and if the mercenaries of Capistan don't make contact within a week, Quick Ben will join them. He's visited every temple in Seer and Pale, and even sacrificed a goat on top of a barrow outside the city. He refuses to tell Whiskey Jack anything. The Malazans march to war against an unknown enemy. Oh boy.
I was thinking we could have just done chapter 5 in 2 parts right there.
Probably. Now you understand why D&J's Epic Quest, their episode was a little under 5 hours on chapter 5.
Yeah, I mean, all right, this is what I was going to say before we started, but I was just like, because you had mentioned something, I think it was Friday. Yeah, Friday at work. And you're like, wow, that's so great. And I was like, oh, anything wild? And you're like, not necessarily. It's just more, there's a lot of really cool things that happen. Like, there's nothing like groundbreaking, I think.
I think I said it's nothing insane, but you won't expect it. And I think at that point, I was reading when Kruppe entered the camp.
Yeah.
Like when Kruppe stepped out of the carriage.
Yeah. No, it's like, that's kind of like when I started to realize, I was like, okay, this is what you're meaning. Like when Rake shows up and Kruppe show up, it's just like a big gathering. And I was like, okay, yeah, I wasn't expecting everyone else to show up. But
it's like it's kind of like what the pitch meeting guy says about Game of Thrones season 8. And then in the last episode, we're going to see the Council of Surviving Characters.
Yeah, no.
This is the Council of Characters from Gardens of the Moon.
Exactly. They finally all meet.
Yes,
and they're more or less on the same side.
Yes. But first, we have Talk and Lady Envy. And we learned some things about Lady Envy here. She used to be a traveling companion of Animander Rake.
Yep. But that was interesting. We've talked about this already, but like when I read that, I was like, it just kind of like reminds me again of just how old she is compared to Talk.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's just like he is just surrounded by like these like elite warriors and like ancient beings, and then you got this one-eyed beat up soldier that's just there. He's there for the witty comebacks.
He's there for the witty comebacks. And I think that Lady Envy has some kind of like flirty mind sorcery going on that he's resisting.
Oh, for sure.
Even though she insists that her affection for him is genuine, but at one point he says something like, "Do you want me to strike heroic poses against the sunset?" And she's like, "Oh, indeed.
Yes, do it, please. You are the hero on the hero's quest, and we are your mortal companions to guide you along." Yeah, I just think it's so funny as well. They get to camp, and she's like, "All right, I want my dinner cooked, my bath drawn up." She's like, "I want my tent set up.
Bring my clothes in the bathtub. I'll worry about getting the water and the perfumes and stuff. Don't worry. I've got that."
She's like, "I'll make it nice."
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say she'd be that traveling companion on. Oh, she reminds me of Bilbo in The Hobbit, where he's like, "I don't have my handkerchief." It's like that. He just wants to bring like that's her basic comforts and necessities.
Well, I was gonna say she's like Brandon Sanderson, who half jokingly says that camping for him is a hotel that doesn't have 24-hour room service.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a better comparison.
We also learn that Tool's sword is invested to an appalling degree. It can cut through wards, and it can't even be chipped, even though it's a stone sword.
Wow, we learned the magic of Borns in this. It was like it wasn't too much, but it was enough to like lead me like, okay, that was a lot.
See, that's always what Erickson does, is he's like, "Oh, you want all the answers? Here's a little dribble. That will satisfy you for a little bit until I give you some more."
Yeah.
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 Talk's sarcasm just does not go away. Tool appears with an antelope, and Talk thinks that he probably scared it to death. And then Envy has one of the Segula start butchering it and says, "You have some butchering to do." And he thinks won't be the first time either. Like he I did not catch how sarcastic Talk was my first time through.
No, I
He's
felt like he
he's
was pretty sarcastic towards her,
he's real sarcastic and sassy.
which I think I appreciate. Like with the ascendant like her.
Hmm. We get some
I don't-
history of metalworking in the world that
Oh
some
yeah.
Malazan scholars think iron was only discovered half a thousand years ago. And then Talk makes a comment about how magic like replaces technological advancement,
Yep.
which is a point that I've heard was like a conscious decision by Erickson and Esselmont, is that they realized that if you have magic, why do you need to keep inventing stuff?
Exactly. Like I think there's a certain like a certain point when you just don't need something. Like or you just think like this is convenient enough.
Yeah, like if you have healers that can heal anything with magic, you don't need medicine. If you can teleport through a warren, you don't really need motorized transportation or anything like that.
You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about like it's a completely like cultural and societal like shift and focus. Like obviously they're gonna have new things. They're gonna probably practice some medicine because like the Tadderall and stuff. But like to a certain degree, they're just gonna be like, yeah, we'll just magic that. We'll find that
Yep.
Warren. That'll do it.
Also get the observation from, oh, because Lady Envy, when he says that magic replaces technological advancement, she's like, "And what scholar is speaking through your mouth right now?" And he grins and says it's a high priest, and she says, "Ah, cults see any advancement, sorceress or mundane, as potential threats. Cults and organizations and things like that don't enjoy progress. Like you'll always have people fighting against progress, no matter what it is."
Yep. Because they want the status quo to be maintained
Mm-hmm.
at that point.
See, I read this on Friday, which is 4 days ago now, because I didn't have time to read it over the weekend. So,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
oh no, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So Envy wandered the world with Animanderite, Caladan Brood, and a sorceress who ascended to become the Queen of Dreams.
Which we
Who
haven't met
is
yet.
No, we have not, but she's been an ascendant listed in the glossary in the back of every book.
I've noticed that. I think it's like interesting that we've got more and more of Brood. Like at first he didn't seem like too big a deal, I think in some regards, but like the more he keeps being mentioned throughout this whole chapter, and then eventually we hit a point where it's like, oh wow, he's kind of a critical
He,
piece here.
yeah, he's pretty important. I mean, even in, I can't remember what chapter it was, but when the Malazans and Brood's forces first meet, we get Crone's perspective for a bit, and she's like, "Brood's an ascendant. You forget that sometimes."
No, you definitely do. Just because like he doesn't like give off that aura. Like he feels like a pretty reserved kind of guy in some regards. But
Let's see. And then Caladan Brood left and was not seen in this world for score centuries. So 2,000 years.
just pretty wild to
Um,
just kind of up and vanish.
and then when he returned, he carried the hammer.
Yep.
Drake and Envy parted argumentatively in the days before the Ascendants gathered to chain the Fallen One.
Which the fallen one's the crippled god, right?
The Fallen One is the crippled god. Yep.
Okay. And he's the like they kept mentioning someone, but he's the dude that injured the one crafts person in like chapter 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah, he's the guy in the tent that killed that guy's legs and then attempted to take Quick Ben as well.
Yeah. Okay.
He might be a bit of an important piece since the 10th book is called The Crippled God.
I think that's just a red herring.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, and he would
Or
be.
or maybe there's more crippled gods.
He's gonna be the new race, a big deal, and then everyone then they're just gonna sick like the side characters on him for a little bit, and then it's just gonna be game over. And they're gonna be like, "Well, the world almost ended, but it really wasn't him. It's this other guy in the background."
What did you think when we learned that Sanu blocked Tool's first two attacks with half-drawn swords?
That was pretty gnarly. And like the when they kept talking about that group of people and how Rake dropped in there and just beat a
Oh yeah,
bunch of them up, it to the point like they are so good that they kept fighting back to the point he was just exhausted and just like, all right, I'm gonna leave before I get too hurt.
yeah, and he ascended to be seventh in their rankings, and they still hold the position for him and know him as Black Sword.
Yeah,
It's funny, and that is based on a real experience where Ian Esselmont was running the game, and Erickson was playing Animator Rake and got a bit too cocky, so Esselmont sent him to this island and forced him to fight until he couldn't fight anymore.
that's actually pretty cool. That would be so much fun. Like when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I just want like a short story on that. Like, can we just get Animator Rake short story on the island?
You got the short story here.
No. I mean like the actual short story, not the synopsis of the short story. But no, I thought that was a pretty cool people because when he's like, yeah, he blocked me with just half drawn swords. He's like, what? He's like, but you're like T'lan Imass. He's like, yeah, no, they're pretty good for like what they are. And then we see he and the other dude get in a duel, but Tool held back and just used only the flat side of his blade. It's like a really good player playing with their left hand in tennis just to add a handicap. And he's like, and still just beats him and is like, they did well.
Did you really just make a swordplay analogy with left hand and go for tennis instead of Princess
Yeah.
Bride? I am not left-handed.
No, I made the tennis one
Ugh,
because that's what came to mind off the top
disappointed
of my
in
head
you.
for some reason.
Disappointed.
I'm disappointed now that you mentioned that. I haven't seen that movie in so long though. That's probably why. I played
Okay.
pickleball more recently, and I did
I
that
watched the,
against
I
a
watched
friend
that
who
movie
was
last
learning.
month.
Oh, see, that would explain it. I haven't seen it in a minute.
We've also learned that the fewer marks on their mask, the higher ranked they are, and there's supposedly a Segula out there with a completely blank mask,
That'd be pretty neat to me see.
which
Are these?
kind of implies to me you can fall, but you can't like once you fall,
Yeah.
it's hard to rise again. If the more you have, the lower you are.
So are they? They're human, right? Or they're not like
They are
anything.
humans, yes.
They're not anything like special though. They're just highly skilled. Or
Yeah, I would say that they're special in that they are a society of humans whose entire life and culture is dedicated to sword fighting.
yeah. But I mean, like, there's no like magic or like special blood or anything. It's just they're just insane.
Yeah. And the three of them are the punitive army sent to avenge. I
I think
mean,
that's comical because it's like yes, you're amazing at sword fighting, but like I just think though it reminds me of Star Wars. All right, and the Clone Wars, you still have a Jedi who can like 1v100 or 1,000, but they still die in the end most of the time because they're like as good as they are, they can't take on a whole army, one of them. So when they're like, we're the punitive army, I'm like, well, it's rather comical. What are you going to do? You guys are amazing, but as soon as you face up against too many, you're going to die, obviously. But I mean,
I'll just say you haven't seen everything they can do, and I'll leave it there.
that's what I'm assuming. Because I'm just like, okay, you guys are insanely good, but at the same time, there's three of you against the whole domain where they're having like five ascendants and two massive armies combining to go fight. So I mean, I'm a little skeptical of that, but
I mean, the Segula are also pretty isolationist and don't leave their island very often. So there's that to consider as well.
yes, that's true. They have the element of surprise.
And then we learned that Sanu is 14.
He's 14. Oh yeah,
How many
they
years
talk.
since your birth? 14.
That's right. He's so young. Wasn't it? What was it? What happened when he was 11 or 12? Did they say something?
I don't think
Maybe I'm
so.
mistaken. Hmm.
Yeah, Thrul just casually turns to Tool. They immediately go at it, and it's like it almost feels like an anime fight where their swords are striking so hard that they're kicking up sparks that let Talk see like flashes of motion.
Oh yeah, one of those Dragon Ball fights where it's just back and forth.
too fast for the eye to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Tool beats the rule with the flat of his blade, breaks some ribs, breaks a wrist, and he's cut up a bit in the process. But as soon as he reveals that he only used the flat of his blade, Mock immediately turns to him and is like, "The hell did you just say?"
He's stunned.
Yep. He's like, "Oh, now I have to challenge you." And Envy's like, no.
No, we're done with challenges. He's like, I'm gonna fix him up, but I'm done with this childish behavior.
Yep.
It was pretty cool though to see him show how they made the arrows. I thought that was a fun detail.
Oh yeah, that like Tool has not lost that knowledge.
Because when he started referencing like the bone antlers and like the breaking of the obsidian, I forget what it's called. But occasionally some videos like will pop up on YouTube of some guy that does that. It's pretty insane like how kind of intricate and they can make some of those like obsidian heads, just how small and some of the detail work. So when we started describing it, I was like, that's actually really cool. That he
Yeah,
man like Erickson managed to get that much detail in.
there's like a misconception about technology and like tools and stuff before metal was discovered that they were
Yeah.
simple, and it's like no, they took what you could do to stone to insane degrees of technical difficulty.
Yeah. Like the one of the most recent clips I saw, the dude was making like ninja stars, like kind of intricate ninja stars out of obsidian. And I was like, I thought it you wouldn't be able to get like that uniform of a shape and that like small areas like broken down without it like completely shattering. So that was really cool to see. But then he'd like start chucking it against a watermelon and a pumpkin. And I know obsidian's sharp, but with kind of the force of that star behind it, that thing like penetrated quite deep into some of those, like completely slicing off chunks. I was like, wow, that's sharp. It's pretty wild.
Did you have anything else about Talk and Envy?
Not much else I can think of off the top of my head. Just that we didn't get to see much of them after this. I was a little sad about that.
Yeah. So we get Whiskey Jack, Quickben, and Mallet. They're on the same hill that Hairlock was chopped in half on after the Siege of Pale and Gardens of the Moon.
Yep.
And I love Whiskey Jack asks the two mages to start like describing Perron's affliction and what's going on with him, and they start trading off sentences. And Whiskey Jack's like, "Last time I was here, I had to hear Quickben and Kalam doing this. That was bad enough. Please stop."
You know, I thought it was interesting that Erickson chose to revisit that hilltop. They kind of have the reflected visit it again.
Yeah, almost kind of symbolic for Whiskey Jack and Quickben.
Yeah, to think of kind of how far they've come and what got them there. Because it's pretty sad that they lost that many bridge burners that quickly.
Yeah. We find out the reason for Perron's sickness. He's near ascendancy, but he keeps fighting it and trying to escape it. And the more he does that, the sicker he gets.
Just accept it, dummy. Come
Yeah,
on.
except
You
an
get to be an
unknown,
ascendant.
except an unknown huge role in this massive game with gods involved.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Don't worry. It comes with a guidebook. A brief welcome to Ascendancy. Here's what you need to know, the basics.
Hey, Caladan Brood and Animander Rick are right there. They can teach him everything he needs to know.
I'd be like, yep. Like, look, here's the deal, pal. Mortal life, it's kind of lame. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just stick around with us. Just have friends that are immortal as well. Don't get too attached to the mortals.
I think the only other thing I have is that Quickben is like, there have been other sorceresses that have called themselves Night Chill. And I mean, we know it's the same person, but he doesn't.
Oh yeah, that they've all been just like because she's an ascendant or whatever.
Yeah, she's the elder goddess, sister of cold night. So it's her every time popping back up. It's kind
Yep.
of like, did you see the Eternals?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so they're immortal, and Kumail Nanjiani's character, he's the latest. His character is quote unquote the latest like descendant in a long line of like this Bollywood actor empire, and it's just been him the same. It's just been him doing it every generation or so throughout the last century or so of Bollywood.
It's
It's
awesome.
funny.
It's actually pretty good. So she's the famous Bollywood actress that keeps popping up.
Exactly. Getting torn apart by demons outside Pale, that was movie magic.
For being ascendant, you'd think she wouldn't die or get destroyed like that. But
I mean,
you know.
She did live on. What I also think is important to remember, because remember when Fenner gets pulled down in Deadhouse Gates, Heberick says something like, any hunter with a spear can kill him now. Gods, when they're on the
Mm,
mortal plane, are just as vulnerable as anyone else.
yeah,
And
just kind of
Nightchill had been
weird
inhabiting a mortal body for a while.
rookie mistake. She must have not got the premium ascendancy insurance because she only got half. She only got like barely a life pack.
Yeah, 200,000-year-old elder god, rookie mistake.
I don't know. It's like you would have thought she would have known this by now after seeing a few of her buddies have their immortal lives uh, cut short.
Or maybe she saw it coming and just let it happen.
Mm, that too, but maybe she got bored.
Anything else about the hilltop? We're still not even into the meat of this chapter yet.
They say I don't have much else there.
Okay, Whiskey Jack and Dujek talk and discuss their situation. Quick Ben is going to try to contact the mercenary company in Capistan. Whiskey Jack won't stand aside if Calor tries to kill Silver Fox, and they're kind of not comfortable if they have to fight alongside the T'lan Imass again.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like anyone really likes them. I wonder why. Is it part to do with like being the undead, turning into dust, and being bloodthirsty and hunting down an entire race to extinction?
Well, being undead, Whiskey Jack and Dujek fought alongside them in Seven Cities, and Whiskey Jack makes a comment like, Kellenved kept them on a tight leash other than that debacle at Erin.
Yep.
And if you remember in Deadhouse Gates, we had the description of like dozens of barrows outside Erin filled with innocent citizens that the T'lan Imass killed.
Is
So
that big a deal?
there's that holding them back as well.
If you're that worried, just be like, hey guys, there's this whole new Panion Dominion or whatever. Yeah, I should just go take a quick trip over there and see what we find. Just as a favor, and then just let that run its course. No, I think it's pretty cool though. I remember reading the part where Whiskey Jack, stands up again and just plants a sword there. He's like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know if you want to be doing that. He's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna do it.
yep.
I was
Whiskey
like,
Jack
Whiskey,
proving again.
he's the cool uncle.
I do also. Whiskey Jack's like, wait, Calor's visited you, Dujek, hasn't he? And he's like, yeah, he he kind of got rid of his anger towards you. He said he hasn't been physically struck in centuries, or so he claims. He also said he deserves it. And Whiskey Jack's like, generous, very good of him.
Oh, I thought it was pretty cool how Rake showed up though as a dragon. He made quite the entrance.
Yes, you keep jumping ahead.
Oh, that's ahead?
That's way ahead.
That's not way ahead.
Yeah, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections left before Animator Rate gets here.
No, that all happened at the same time. I'm getting confused then what part are we at?
So this
Because
is Whiskey
Dujek
Jack.
and them were like in defense of
Well,
the girl.
yeah, so
But this
that's
isn't the old
just
meeting.
Whiskey Jack and Dujek meeting before the emissaries arrive.
Mm,
And then before Kruppe arrives, we've got the Maib, Corlat, and Brood discussing Silver Fox, talking about how kind of disturbing Silver Fox is. Brood is pretty compassionate and sorry towards the Maib because that kind of sucks.
yeah, she's not doing too well.
I do like what the Maib brings up here. Bone and flesh can only hold so much power. The limit is always finite. For beings such as you and Animander Rake, and you too, Corlat, you possess the centuries of living necessary to contain what you command. Silverfax does not, or rather her memories tell her she does, but her child's body denies those memories. Thus, vast power awaits her, and to fully command it, she must be a grown woman, and even then, and then Corlat says, ascendancy is born of experience, and experience tempers.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too pleasant for her.
But that's interesting. Like ascendancy is born of experience.
I know, I thought that was interesting too. When I read that, I was like, what kind of experience are you talking about then? Is this just like a progressive experience leveling up like in a video game? The more you get, then finally you hit the immortality status, the ascendancy status.
I will say there are multiple ways to become an ascendant, and that's all I'll say.
I've noticed that there's multiple ways. You can be born into it. You can go to the Azath house, do that, get go to the Azath house, find the realtor for Warrens, say, hey, I need a Warren to be in charge of, and they take you to one. Or you're Piran and just happen to fall into it.
Perron's also has something to do with the hound's blood being inside him, which are already ascendants.
Yeah. So you inherit it through another ascendant. So Silver Fox, though, is Silver Fox is her own person, though, right? With three
So
other beings in her.
yeah, Silver Fox is her own being containing the souls of three others inside her. Yeah.
Okay. So I figured. Just pretty gnarly.
Then the Druidistan representatives arrive and Kruppe steps out. And oh my gosh, I would love to just read everything Kruppe says out loud here on the podcast, but that would be way too long.
Especially this part. He talked so much. It was so good,
The
though.
the more I reread Malazan, the more I love Kruppe so much.
I was really happy when I was reading it, and I was like, I have a feeling it's like plump person. I was like, I have a feeling I know who this is. Please tell me it's the right
Yes.
person. And it was Krupp,
Yep.
and I was like, yes.
And Caladan Brood calls him representative of Druidistan. And Kruppe's like, representative of Druidistan? Like, surprised. Oh, indeed.
Yes, that is me.
Yes, Kruppe is the representative from Druidistan. The Maid recognizes Kruppe from her dream where Silver Fox was born. And Caladan Brood asks Kruppe which one it is. And he's like, ambivalence, uncertainty, all anathema to Kruppe of Druidistan. Possibly, then again, possibly not.
He's like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Balls, Alice in Wonderland. Jeez.
Kruppe, what in Hood's name are you doing here? Dear friend Murillo, have you climbed in the world with this new profession, or perhaps sidled sideways?
Murillo and Cole were the people out that were like injured, right? That were trying to escort.
So Call was the one who his leg got cut by Lorne. He was the former lord who the Simtal lady stole everything from him, and he became a drunk.
Yep.
But yeah, Murillo helped get Cole back into his status as a member of the council.
So I was trying to remember who was who because I was like, I remember these guys.
Yeah, Murillo is the dandy that seduces noble ladies.
Ah, that's right. Yes.
Let's see. I am here as representative of Master Baruch. Cole. Oh, indeed. The alchemist sent you on his behalf, did he? Well, not in so many words, of course. Baruch and I are of such closeness and friendship that words are unnecessary.
I know. Especially now.
And Cole talking to Caladan Brood, the presence of this Kruppe was unintended. Like, he doesn't know how to describe Kruppe other than like this Kruppe.
Yeah. This guy, I just love how just kind of like he's just there to just say anything and they just don't understand what's going on or who's who at this point. I feel like I could just imagine being like Brood or Dewjack or Whiskey Jack or any of them just being like, what? What is going on? These Druidistan people are a little strange.
Oh, there's so many lines. What outrageous lies have you uttered now, Kruppe? Kruppe and the truth are lifelong partners, friend Cole. Indeed, we only yesterday celebrated our 40th anniversary.
Only 40? It's disgraceful.
Crone to Kruppe. You, sir, should have been a great raven. And you a dog. A dog? Only so that I might ruffle you behind the ears, my dear. Ruffle? Very well, not a dog then. A parrot? A parrot? Perfect.
Rupp is just so good. He just breaks all the social barriers. Just does what he wants.
My dog's freaking trying to come in the room. But yeah, then they
There
all
you go.
sit down. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Crone's trying to get in. Better let her in.
No. Yes. Okay. I'll leave that in the episode now. That was a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, but then everyone sits down at a table made from a wagon bed because the bridge burners stole Brood's table.
They borrowed it.
And Kruppe just interjects himself into the meeting and is like, so, I've got the perfect solution for how to supply your armies, the Trigal Trade Guild. And Cole's like, you've invested in them, haven't you? That's not important.
And then I love how they're like, well, then they're like, we've had some issues with this bridge. And Krupp is just like completely destroys that argument of like, well, the bridge is only there if you need it. There's other ways to go. And Dujek, I think it was Dujek, was like, he does have a point. We don't need to go that direction. We only need to go through the north. It's like we
Yeah.
don't have to deal with the bridge.
There's so many one-liners from Krupp. My patience with you is growing very thin, Krupp. Alas, I can only dream of thin.
It's true. He only can. That love of food.
What is all this? Baruch doesn't even know you're here. A minor breakdown in communication, nothing more. The alchemist's desire was plain to Krupp, he assures you one and all. While Krupp may well and with some justification claim sole credit for the impending proposal, he must bow down to the virtue of truthfulness and therefore acknowledge Baruch's minor, yet vital contribution.
Brooke was killed, right? Like,
No, Baruch wasn't killed.
oh
He's
no,
still
that's
alive.
the other dude I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at first when I read it, I was thinking it was his uncle, Crocus's uncle, for some
Oh, yeah.
reason. That's what
No.
crossed my mind, and I was like, how did they not get it? How did they not get it? He's not dead. And then the second time I was like, oh wait, it's the other dude. It's the old guy.
Yeah, Mamet was Crocus's uncle that died.
Yeah, it was Mammoth.
Yeah, and then Krupp is like, so I've laid it before you. I'm gonna enjoy some cakes, and you all will come to the right conclusion.
I feel like Krupp is just he's like the like kind of like the meta sense of like him controlling the story. He's the narrator to it all, which I love. It's just awesome. Because like I can just like the whole time like I'm reading this, I'm just imagining being at this meeting. Like that's what I'm
Oh,
imagining reading is I'm just like sitting there watching the two representatives, the actual ones trying to do their job, and they know Krupp, and Krupp's just there kind of like interjecting and just doing his own thing. And you're like, okay, yeah, Krupp's making a good point though. Like I think we should go with that idea. And the other two guys are just like, but then what are we doing here? Like, what about our idea? We came all this way.
yep. Sitting at a wagon bed that probably still has some straw on it. All these powerful people just sitting there. Crone gets bored with the meeting, so she leaves, and she finds she finds Brood's table, sneaks under it. The bridge burners are sitting there, and they're doing a reading, and it implies that Seven Cities is about to rise in rebellion, as we know
Oh,
happens.
is it?
I think one of them recognizes the assassin of House Shadow as Kalam.
Oh yeah. Clown plays a part in something.
Yeah, I wonder what role he could play in the rebellion that's to come.
I have no idea. It's like he's a minor side character with a weird story love arc. There's nothing important that happens to him.
No, 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 no. Perron goes to find the table. Crone recognizes him, and then Perron orders the four soldiers to take it back to Brood's tent. And they're like, "There's only like an hour until sunrise. Yep, that should give you just enough time to take the table back and pack your stuff."
And I love it how he breaks up the group and has Picker come with him. And they're
Oh
like,
yeah,
and she's like, "You're gonna make the four of them carry it?" And he's like, "Well, they did steal it in the first place. Like they can figure it out."
yeah. The Might was like, "That's a little harsh," and he's like, "Oh no, 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 they stole it in the first place."
That's on them. That's their fault. I imagine anytime I read about the bridge burners, I imagine like just these like hyper intelligent individuals, but a complete disregard for safety and like social order in some aspects. They're just there to do their own thing.
I would not put Hedge or Spindle in the camp of super intelligent.
I don't think in like terms of like scholarly sense or another. I think in just terms of like they're like really intelligent in their own way. You know what I mean? Like in that specific thing they do, like you ask them a question, it's going to be like basically like a Shakespeare version of like you're like, I don't understand what you're saying, but you sure know what you're doing, type of thing.
Yeah, they're smart in like I've met tons of people that are super smart, but like have a kind of rough way of speaking, don't like follow all of the quote unquote normal rules of culture or society, but they are super intelligent and
Yeah.
fun to be around.
That's what I imagine some of these bridge burners as. Just because I mean they went in and stole the sentence table to play a rigged gambling game to win a bunch of money in which they lost.
They lost it all. See, I told you they're not super intelligent.
Hey, they didn't know the table was a new card, all right? They didn't have Fiddler there. That Perron guy. Always coming in causing troubles.
What did you think of the plan that Whiskey Jack gives to Perron that they're gonna try to negotiate with the Barghast to try to get them to come help them?
I thought that was thought I was thinking like good luck, guys. I don't know much about the Barghast, but from what I remember, they remind me a bit of the T'lan Imass and a bit of like the warrior nature.
They are definitely a warrior culture. We see three of them later on in the next chapter.
Yep.
But yeah, so Morinth are going to take the bridge burners to the base of their mountains, and Trots, the Barghast and Whiskey Jack squad, is going to take command and try to negotiate with them. And then Anamander Rake appears.
And he appears. See, that whole I thought Kruppe and Rake came at the same time. I read this like 2 hours ago though. I feel like that's pretty sad. I couldn't remember that timeline that much, a little bit.
I mentioned in the summary it's one of the best descriptions ever. I had never remembered this description until it was brought up on the DLC book club. So shout out to them. Rake was an atmosphere, a heart-thudding, terror-threaded presence no one could ignore, much less escape. Violence, antiquity, somber pathos, and darkest horror. The son of darkness was a gelid eddy in immortality's current, and the Mibe could feel crawling beneath her very skin every Rivi spirit awakened in desperation.
Sounds like a
He
charming
is
dude.
he is a heart-thudding, terror-threaded atmosphere of a presence. Like, what other description do you need?
I mean, like, I feel like the second you see, like, you hear like the big loud like windstorm, like just his physical presence, like blowing over tents and stuff and like scaring horses and everything, like he has a way of announcing himself just
Oh
by
yeah,
showing
definitely.
up. And then after he changes, just him. That's him. You just know Rake is here. Like he is just so cool. He gets cooler and cooler every scene we see him. Like the first time we hear about him in book one, they're like, you got some of the most powerful wizards in Dujak's army. Like, oh crap, this is who we're fighting. Like, and that's all we know. It's like he's just scary. Next time we see him, we find out he's tall, has his hair, his sword, and everything. He's awesome. And then later on, we see him. Turns out he's a dragon later on, but then we find out like midway through the book he has this amazing sword. Now it's like we see him actually be the dragon and everything, and just the presence within like a battle hardened like army. It's pretty sweet. Hands down one of my favorite people in this book series. It's a given.
Yeah, definitely. He just has so much presence. Like Calor is when he first appears, Calor is like slowly stepping towards him, making points, and Anamander Rake just murmurs like, "Calor, approach further at your peril." And then
I love that.
everyone is standing with Caladan Brood to protect Silver Fox, and Rake says to Calor, "It seems you stand alone. It was ever thus." It's like, ooh, hitting
Yep.
him where it hurts.
That scene just Calor reminded me of what's his name? Is it Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, Worm Tongue.
Like just like it didn't like I don't think of Calor as that, but it reminded me of that scene. Or just a little bit of him. Like you kind of see that like Weasley nature or something of like I don't know, just he's there for himself and once someone actually powerful steps in the room, he kind of like tries to get out and approach slowly, but make sure he can still get away, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate here for a minute for Calor, I kind of can't blame him for having that much resentment because Night Chill is one of the ones that cursed him, and
Yeah.
so he's immortal, but he can't ever ascend, and he's just kind of stagnant.
Yeah.
So that would suck. But he's going about it in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Rake tries to learn more about Silver Fox with the sorcery, and she just swats him aside, and tensions get very tense.
Just a little.
Uh,
Just a little.
Extremely tense for a little bit, and then who is there to alleviate the tension but Kruppe hanging onto a flying table? Once again, Ericsson's swinging between the tension and the humor, and suddenly it's like something out of a cartoon with, I imagine Kruppe is just this literal circle of a man. like hanging onto a table,
I know. Like, well, it describes him in his silks and like his nice clothes, just eating like desserts and pastries and stuff. He's
literally
just flying
stuffing
around.
them into his face. Yeah.
Like it's like him just mumbling out of his mouth, like kind of like that muffled scream of terror. Like, what is
Ah,
happening?
someone help Kruppe!
It reminded me of I don't know if you ever saw this, but the Hotel Transylvania years ago, the flying
I
table
never saw
scene.
that.
But I remember that scene because I just kept thinking of that, just like the table flying around in that scene, as well as this one. I was like, thought that was pretty funny. Doesn't Quick Ben come to the scene, or is that later? Might get my timelines mixed up.
No, that's pretty much right now. Perron just vanishes between steps and appears before everyone else. Recognizes himself from Buckles, and then Quick Ben is like, everyone, let's calm down. There's a lot of power here. Who knows what attacking each other right now could bring? Rake is like, who are you? Just a soldier.
Don't have to worry about me.
Quick Ben does not want anyone to know anything about him.
Not at all. What wasn't he? Was he the one holding the standard at this point?
No, Quick Ben was in the bridge burner camp and then ran over to where the
Ran
leaders
over.
are. When
Okay.
it's Artanthos. Artanthos is the Malazan standard bearer. Her Lockle or her Lochel is the one for Brood. Okay,
Okay.
I've got that
Because
right.
it was Mindy or someone mentioned that they noticed. I thought it was the standard bearer, like something like drew her attention, like he
Oh
was
yeah,
magical
yep.
or something, like he was hiding something.
But then
So it made
no,
me
I am
think like
mistaken. I see
it
nothing
was,
now.
yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. My side's lagging a little bit occasionally. Like you're just slightly delayed, not too bad, but we're good.
Yeah, so then Kron is in the Azath house in Darujistan. Yeah, what did you think? We learned a lot here.
It was okay. Just kidding. No, I thought like it threw me off for a little bit at the start just because like I was like, well, where is he? But then as soon as it starts explaining itself, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And it's like you got the two, what's her name? Vulcan,
Vorkin and Relic Nam,
Vorkin.
yeah.
Oh, these names are all so close to something real, and then it's not. Fantasy authors. And then the other dude, I don't remember his name, but I was like, oh yeah, I recognize them. So I was like, oh, we must be, here. But then Race shows up and he's just
Yeah,
chilling. He's like, hey, Piran, what's going on? And he's like, wait a second, aren't you the tyrant? He's like, yeah, I'm kind of stuck here now. I'm gonna be here for a while. Like, I'm like the guardian or the steward of it by the
yeah.
sound of it, or
He's the guardian like Gothos, like Ikarion's
yeah.
dad.
And so I was like, oh. And he's like, do you want to come in? He's like, let me show you around. Obviously, you can just walk right in. Like, apparently you have something to do here.
He's so sarcastic too.
Oh, just so sarcastic. And like anything, he's like, well, do I go forward? He's like, but I have to kill you. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's a waste of time then if I had to bring you all this way.
It cannot be undone. A master is needed, so here you are. I don't want it. I weep a river of tears for your plight, mortal.
He's like, you don't want it? Look where I am.
I won't have your cheery company next time. How will I cope? Miserably, if there was justice in the world.
I'm like, we need Krupp here for a little bit just to add to
Yeah,
it.
all the wars are won. I don't want to think about any of this. Then don't.
He's
Yeah,
like, I just
so
want the one thing I'm in charge of right now, this war. And he's like, well, that's too bad.
yeah, there was a meme on the Dust of Memes subreddit the other week that was like or maybe it was one from a few months ago that I found while scrolling through, but it was like Raced in Gardens of the Moon, and it's like this super scary, like werewolf type looking thing. And then it's Raced in Memories of Ice, and it's the sarcastic cat that's always staring at the two girls.
Oh yeah. It's such a different tone change for Raced, which I think is awesome.
And then we get the Hold of Beasts. What do you think?
A lot. There's a lot that implies.
But before he goes in, Peron sees like this field of tiles that are all different cards in the deck, and it very much is similar to Fiddler's group when they were traveling through the Azath. Like it was showing different physical places in the world. This one is showing Piran
Yeah.
all the parts of the deck.
But this sounds like though, I mean, it dives into a little bit once he starts kind of piecing it together. But like the cards, those are all like different gateways to the warrens and the holds and stuff. But not all of them are active anymore, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. This all goes back to Piran and Silver Fox's conversation last chapter about
Yeah.
how the holds and the warrens and the deck of dragons and the Azath all might be the same.
Yeah. I thought the one line it was houses and holds, the first efforts at building when
Mm-hmm.
he's talking about like the homes, but then I think it applies it well, I like the warrens and stuff. It's interesting like how Piran happens into this power of like it says he can travel at will into each and every card of every deck that ever existed.
Yep.
So it's like he's like, I can go see all the past DLC, the kind that I didn't get before I was born. He's like, I get to
No,
play the older versions.
I was gonna say it's not DLCs. It's like he gets to play the alpha and beta versions of the game.
That's true. The holds are game one, and then the decks is game two. So then there's some different versions in between each one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes into the holds, the hold of beasts. What did you make of all of that? The two thrones, it being the original origin of the power that the Imass had before the ritual.
It explained a lot, I think. It explained kind of like the brutality of the T'lan Imass, the hold of the beasts. So it's pretty old. It's a hold.
Yeah.
But I think it explained because it sounds like it's a kind of Ice Age-ish type of thing with some
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. We've talked about that earlier too, where we had an Ice Age with glaciers, and in
Yeah.
this one it was just the Jagut and the T'lan Imass wars that caused Ice Age.
Yeah. And so like I think it explains kind of like that primal nature and need to kind of fight, like the sense of alpha, and like it reminds me of like, wolves, tigers, lions, kind of those mentalities of like they fight to see who's on top, you know.
Although I did see recently that they're finding that the idea of an alpha male in like wolf and pack cultures actually doesn't exist most of the time, that wolves are often a very healthy family dynamic with a mother and father.
Then that would make sense, the two thrones.
There you go.
There you go.
I think also explaining some of the IMAS and their eternal sadness is that they have literally outlived their own gods.
Which is kind of wild to me. That like the whole concept once again of immortality, quote unquote immortality, ascendancy, is still pretty limited. Like it reminds me of in Percy Jackson when Percy learns about the demigods and he's like, wait a second. So you're telling me a regular bullet can kill me, but also the celestial bronze or whatever can kill me? They're like, yep, you can die by both. He's like, but a mortal won't die by my sword. And they're like, nope. And then the monster won't die by the mortal's gun. Nope. He's like, so you're telling me I'm more likely to die than either one of them? They're like, yep.
Later in the series, doesn't he
That
also watch the god Pan like die and fade away?
yeah, because Pan like they destroyed nature too much or something,
Yeah.
and so Pan just dies. But like it was one of those things. Like that's the thought that loosely comes to mind. Kind of that same thing. It's like you're immortal, but you're not. It's like I'm like, oh, this is take it with a grain of salt, everyone.
Yeah. So we get all of that sadness, and then we learn about Caladan Brood and his hammer, which in some ways I feel like is equally as sad and kind of
I know.
terrifying.
He's just tasked with holding the god's power because he's the Warren 10, right?
Yeah, he uses the word tens, something like that.
Tens.
Tennes. Yeah, so the crippled god has been infecting her, and a little less than 2,000 years ago, she went to sleep, thus burned sleep, and forged all of her power into the hammer that's wielded by Brood. And
Yep.
so either he wields it, breaks the chains of the crippled god, which is the end of the world, or he waits for Burn to die, which is the end of the world.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty gnarly that that's like his decision. She's like, here you go. I'm gonna go take a nap. Here's the hammer.
Yeah. She's slowing down by going to sleep. She's slowing the infection so that the world doesn't end quite as soon.
Yeah. She can just kind of focus everything on that. But I thought it was interesting though that it brings up that the T'lan Imass, after their ritual, they switch to, it sounds like, the Warrant of Dust. Is
T'lan,
that
which
T'lan?
we will learn more. So
Because
Raphael.
yeah, well, I mean, it says like something relating to dust in this part, which I mean makes sense if it, like, from what I remember, they like collapse into a pile of dust and like can move between things.
Yeah.
So
So I will also say Erickson also uses a lot of unreliable narrator, and so if a character thinks they've discovered something, it may not always be fully correct.
makes sense.
Yeah, and then Race is like, so what do you think? Was that a blessing or a curse? Are you crying or are you laughing?
He's like, do I get the option of both? Because yeah, that'd be pretty terrible to learn, I think, especially if you don't want it.
Yeah, and then Perron returns to his body and chooses not to be a gossip and will just let Brood have his secret.
He's not like spinning around. Guys, he wields the hammer.
Yeah, no,
Listen.
can you imagine what that would do to people if they knew?
I know.
It's
That
it,
would,
I, it's almost the same reason Quick Ben hasn't told anyone about Burn.
I know. Because I feel like it's a smart thing for them to be like, all right, let's deal with this first, see like if we can even deal with this. Because like if they don't, like hypothetically, they're like, hey, guys, let's focus. Burn's gonna die in a few decades. Like we're almost out of time. It's a few decades away. They can do that, but then they have to deal with possibly the Seven Cities rebellion at the same time because the Seven Cities would be like, we don't believe you. They fight the Panion people are like, we don't believe you. We have our own religion thing, and it's like, you gotta deal with some things first, or else.
Yeah. Also, an interesting thing is brought out when Brood and Rake speak that like the at the heart of the Panion is the Warren of Chaos,
Mm-hmm.
which is what the crippled god uses.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting though that Rake and Brood are kind of like, just because like they know each other, and he's like, so how's the hammer life going? And he's like, well, it's not going great. And he's like, so humanity's almost done. He's like, yeah, not too much longer.
The crippled god would kill sorcery, but would that be such a bad thing?
And he's like, the destruction of an entire thing, yeah, maybe.
Could be. I do love that Quick Ben offers to bring the table down, and Rake is like, so you're not just a soldier. And Quick is like, don't try to find out more about me. And Rake's like, okay, I'll respect that.
He's like, don't worry about it.
And then Krup's like, is anyone else hungry?
Let's go eat. After all that, I would be so hungry after all that flying around on a table. Goodness, that's a lot of work to
Well,
fly around on a table.
I think Krupp is literally never not hungry.
Probably not. He's a hobbit. He
There's
likes.
I I don't really subscribe to this theory, but there's been like half joking theories thrown out there that does Krupp use food to sustain like magic or something?
Oh, maybe that's a good theory.
And then the heartbreaking scene comes next with the Maib running away or trying to
Yep,
run away, but
she
her
just can't.
body's too old and she can't. And Curran and Corlat come to her and offer support, which she resents, which people in torment often do. And that moment where she just screams out that her daughter has stolen away her life. It's like, oh,
Brutal. I mean, she's so young as well. That's, I think, the hard part.
yeah, she's literally like 21.
And it's like, and she's like, my daughter stole away my life, and her daughter knows, but like she doesn't know to what extent. Like it doesn't, like she's too
Yeah.
young to fully realize it.
And Silver Fox can't stop it. They
Nope.
discuss that T'lan is more like permanent than other Warrens or something like that. And so what's done cannot be undone.
Yeah.
And she's like, even if you found a way, what am I going to do? Be an 80-year-old for 6 more decades until I die?
Be pretty miserable.
That sounds awful. Yeah.
I mean, Especially, I mean, we work in a pharmacy, we've mentioned this, but like seeing some 80-year-olds where you're like, wow, how are you living still with some of the stuff you're on? Or it's like the
Yeah,
things you need to like they need to take just to kind of keep going. You're like, is it even worth it at that point, you know? Like your quality of
yeah.
life is just not good.
But also, I think what Kern and Corlat do here is also a great example of what to do for someone that you care about that's in a tough spot. Like, just be there, support them, and be like, I will not support you in taking your own life, but anything
Yeah,
else you need, I'm here for.
exactly. No, I thought that was very well done because she's like, well, if rage is what's going to fuel you, that's just what's going to fuel you. She's like, come on.
Yeah, which is what the Maib has been actively fighting against. Like, she's been consciously choosing not to hate her daughter, and I think a
Yeah,
dam might have just broke.
I know, which is just pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah. I love how we don't even get the rest of what Brood tells Rick. Like, tell me a silver fox in the Imass, and he talks, and then they're just silent for a bit when he's done.
Like, I just wonder what's going through their heads, but we never get it. We don't always get what's going through a lot of people's heads, which is understandable,
Yeah.
understandable. But
Erickson is very, very conscious of who he picks to see out of their eyes, I guess you could say.
yeah, I just want quick bin.
And then again, speaking of swinging between intense stuff and humor, right after Krupp asks if anyone's hungry, then we get the Mibe scene, and then Brood and Rick having a tense conversation, and then we get Quick Ben dropping Calor into a hole.
Yeah, that one took me a second. I had to reread that because I was like, wait, what just happened? Because Silver Fox like gasps, and I was like, wait, I totally missed that. And I was like, that was amazing. I'm so happy you did that.
Calor walks up and interrupts the conversation. He tells Quickben, "You, wizard, are a hoarder of souls. I am a man who releases souls. Shall I break the chains within you? An easy thing to leave you helpless." And Quickben's even easier to make a hole in the ground.
Oof.
He drops him into the hole, and it feels like a Tom and Jerry moment where
I was gonna
Jerry
say
has digging. Jerry has
he's
digging a
digging.
hole.
He's digging a hole.
Jerry Jerry has dug a hole for Tom. He falls into it, and I can just imagine the angry noises as he like huffs and puffs his way up the side of the hole.
It's like the you know, do you remember in Home Alone the bandits like the noises they make, like the like just the angry, frustrated sounds that they make trying to like get back up the stairs or something.
It's when he gets shot in the nuts with the BB gun rifle.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, that's just Cowler just trying to get out of the hole. Because I was gonna say it reminds me of Looney Tunes. There's the two Looney Tunes scene. Yeah, Krupp flying on the table, and then you got Cowler dropping just straight down in a hole. And then
Yeah,
everyone's like running away as fast as they can.
Wishy Jack's like, I think we should leave. Yeah, you're right. Let's go. Yeah, but that scene in Home Alone, it's totally Joe Pesci wanting to swear like for the part, but he can't because he's in
Oh,
a
I
kids
know.
movie.
Yeah, he's just such a good scene.
Yeah, what did you think, or did you think anything of Calor calling Quickben a hoarder of souls?
Oh, I definitely thought about it. I mean, Green Erickson and even Sanderson, I've tried to pick up on more just anything anyone says. So it made me just think, I was like, well, I know he holds a lot of warrens, but what does that imply? The holder of souls. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Hoarder of souls. The Witch of Tennis that he visits in Pale earlier calls him 12 souls.
So is he like a silver fox case? About 12 people.
I mean, Raffo.
Obviously. That would be a good explanation, maybe.
And then the next day, the Malazans start marching, and Quickben and Whiskey Jack are just talking. And Whiskey Jack's okay. So what are you up to, Quick? And he's like, "Who, me? I'm not doing anything. You visited every temple in the city, and people saw you sacrificing a goat on top of a barrow." And Quickben's like, "Okay, that one was desperate."
The souls just disappeared, you know? He's like, I was trying to figure out what happened. He's like,
Don't change the
no.
subject.
He's like, that wasn't it. He's like, fine, he's like, well, just tell me when you're ready. He's like, okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, I think Whiskey Jack has worked enough with Quickben that he knows that he's not going to get a darn thing out of him.
Nope.
That was the longest we've ever spent on one chapter. That was an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, a few things happened.
Yeah. Do you have anything else about this chapter just as a whole?
I don't know. I really liked it just because it was just cool to see a lot more of like the deeper lore once again of Malazan. I think that's one of my favorite things to read. So like Piran scene, just like minor details and notes of everyone. I was like, it's exactly what I like. This is cool.
Yep. Definitely my favorite chapter in the book so far. Are we good to move on to chapter 6?
Yeah, let's do it.
Chapter 6 is all Gruntle and crew.
What a weird chapter this was.
Chapter 6. Gruntle approaches Saltoan, one of the oldest cities on the Vision Plain. It used to be a bustling trade port until the river's course changed, and it has been in a centuries-long decline ever since. The group moves through Twist-Face Passage, Gruntle recalling a night of bloodshed there years ago. A group of criminals offers escort to them, which has been arranged by Karuli. Karuli speaks to the assembled crime bosses of Saltoan, urging them to drive away the Panian priests in a war of information. We learn of the children of the dead seed, and also that Gruntle suspects that Karuli is a priest. Stunny and Nektara have some fun. In the morning, Gruntle hangs back to make sure that no bandits follow Karuli's carriage. Along the track, he comes upon a group of dead thieves whose metal has been melted. He catches up with the carriage and learns of 3 Barghast at a way stop. Karuli invites the Barghast to travel together. The trio are here investigating reports of demons. Gruntle pries more information out of Hatan about the demons. They are 2-legged with talons like an eagle, and their arms are blades. Hatan says that she will ride Gruntle tonight, and of course he can't refuse such an elegant offer. The next day, Hatan explains her people's custom of holding spirits down by burying trees upside down on hills. They come upon Beauchelain and Corbelbroch's carriage, wrecked by giant swords, but with no bodies visible. The 2 trunks within reveal a collection of slate tablets with arcane symbols carved into them, and a collection of organs fashioned into a puppet. The pair approach on foot and recount the attack and how they barely escaped. They lose a Barghast spirit as well. The 2 groups agree to an alliance until they reach Kapistan. Hatan takes Harlow and Sunny takes Nitok into the darkness before the demons attack. Karuli recognizes them as Kachain Shamal. The Barghast lances take down 1, and Beauchelain and Corbelbroch deal with 2 more. One comes up behind them, and Gruntle pushes Karuli out of the way, his swords and wrists shattering as he takes a blow. Harlow takes the follow-up blow and reels away. Gruntle is kicked and pierced by the creature's talons. He lays on the ground, the light going out as he feels himself dying. So, these are the dinosaurs with swords for hands.
I know. I was so excited when we got them. I thought they were gonna come like a book 6 or 7.
The only other time that you've mentioned them on the podcast, I cut them out of the episode just in case there was anyone listening that didn't know.
Oh,
But
smart.
yes, giant raptors with swords for arms.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Like,
Because
who else thinks of this?
when you mentioned it, and then like this was like I think last year, probably around this time. Maybe
Yeah,
no, not around this time. Couple like probably like in October of last year when I was asking about different books. And you're like, well, this one has this. It was like the dinos with swords with arms. And when I brought up that one episode, you're like, oh, I probably should have mentioned that. I was like, no, that's like a huge part of the reason I wanted to read this. So I was so excited when I saw him finally come in, and then to find out like you got these powerful sorcerers, and it took almost everything they had just to get one of them away. I was like, oh yes, they're awesome.
yeah. So first we have the group getting to Saltoan. We get kind of the history of the city and why it's such a dump in like a paragraph.
Yep,
Because in a season of flooding, the river just changed course.
it's pretty gnarly. I wonder if that's happened in real life.
I would assume so.
Because like when he wrote that in, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's happened anywhere. But
I think that it's safe to say that most of the things that he puts in this book are like in these books are based on something
something,
from
yeah,
reality. Yeah, so they go through Twist Face Passage, which is the neighborhood just has wrecking crews that if someone gets stuck there, it's fair game,
pretty
which is
gnarly. And he's like,
interesting.
last time I was here, we had to fight off a bunch of them. We
Yeah.
we made the population a little smaller.
Yeah, we killed half a neighborhood of cutthroats.
I mean, could be worse. It could be better
Could
though.
be a little worse. They're offered escort by the like by the criminals, and I love that the woman is like just hitting on Stunny, like, I'll lay my heart down at your feet, and Stunny's like, don't lay it down at my feet, I step hard.
I love Stoney's just like anti everything.
Well, not
But
quite, because
not
they,
quite,
they
but
they get up to some
like
fun in the meeting.
not, but like all the mushy stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Harlow, right? She doesn't like him.
Oh yeah, but Grunt's like, I've never seen you chase a woman this bad, and he's like, she's unattainable. That's why.
He's like, it's more just for the fun of it.
Yeah, just during the meeting, Grunter glances over, and the one
Oh,
lady just has her hand down Stunny's pants, and he's like, I'm not. To quote our friend Natalia, I'm not drunk enough for this, and immediately starts like drinking some more ale.
he's like, what is going on in this meeting?
um, what did you think of the Children of the Dead Seed?
Thought that was kind of messed up, honestly.
Yeah, now you know what Dujek meant when he said, "And if the rumors are true, cannibalism is the least of the atrocities."
Yeah, 100%. Like cannibalism's pretty messed up, but I feel like that's like, ugh, ah, that's
Yeah,
weird.
literally getting seed from dead people.
That's another one of those things that like I would be afraid to ask, but I'm like, Erickson, did you can come up with that on your own? Like
Oh, it's real.
has to be from some
It's
like
a real thing
bizarre.
that's happened. Yeah,
That's a bizarre historical note. Ugh.
I'm gonna see if I. The FBI might be tracking my search history after this one.
Like,
I
what
just
are you
searched them.
doing?
Are Children of the Dead Seed real? Yep, yep, it's happened.
Oh, jeez. People are wild in not a good way. Yeah, it's one of those things. I love how Erickson's a historian, but there's certain notes in some of these parts where I'm like, I like forget how messed up history is, and some of the things people have done sometimes are.
Yeah, yeah. It's the first time I read that, I was like, he did not. No way. And yeah, he did.
Like, because I mean, like cannibalism you hear about because like animals do it. Like,
Cannibalism's nothing.
yeah. And like when they say cannibalism's nothing, I can't even. I was trying to think. I'm like, well, what's worse? Yeah, that's worse. So much worse.
Yep, the youngest of the Paniondoman's followers are children of the Dead Seed, so there have been children born of this.
Pretty wild place to live.
Yep.
It's like
Yeah.
the.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's like how would you describe it? Like a very dark Wild West,
Ugh. Uh, this
maybe.
is this is like if the Dark Ages went times 1,000.
The what?
The Dark Ages.
Yeah, there you go. Like the Crusades of the Dark Ages in some aspects. Maybe not the Crusades, but you know what I mean, like a religious like
Yeah.
domination with kind of messed up certain things. But
I mean, I just read R. Scott Baker's first three books. That is literally what if a crusade happened in a magical world,
oh, that's an
in a
interesting
very
premise.
dark magical world. With yeah,
Yeah. No, that's
um,
it's I can see why they're uniting together to come beat these guys up.
yeah, like there's like Lee said in our Dead House Gates wrap up episode, there's no defending the bad guys in this book.
Yeah.
Like it's been pretty gray so far, but this one it's like, well, they're eating people and raping dead bodies. So
Yeah. I mean, Deadhouse had some pretty like black and white stuff. I mean, like taking a bunch of unarmed soldiers and,
it's
you
true,
know,
yeah. But like
putting them all up on a bunch of trees.
the sides were a little morally gray because both sides were doing bad things, and like both sides did things that
Mhm.
were definitely in the black and white side of the spectrum. But this one,
Yeah.
it's like, no, the Panion Doman is bad, so go
This
destroy
is,
them.
yeah.
And then Karuli tells the people, like, you've probably heard the Panion priest, like, it's a paradise, everyone gets equal treatment. Well, I'm here to tell you it's a tyranny, and only the original members get that treatment. The Teniskawi are left to their own devices, which is why they're cannibals. It's like,
It's like
oh,
the,
so it's like every dictatorship ever.
reminds me of, have you seen the one, it was a Family Guy clip that it's one that pops up on like YouTube occasionally. And he's like, it's like Peter Griffin landing in America for the first time.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah,
Remind
it.
me of that a little.
Yeah. So for
Where
those
they're
that
like,
haven't seen
everyone will
it,
be free.
Yeah,
But
except for anyone that's not a white male, and I mean white, so no Italians. just like just like just like
well,
British and Spaniards. And then he goes,
British, yeah.
yeah, because Peter Griffin lands on the shore of America and is like, freedom for everyone, except for all of these groups like women and black people and LGBT people and Muslims. And then after this long list of like only white men, America.
Such a great clip. That's reminds me of their like if the it's like if the Panion I'm like
Domin.
Domin, I'm struggling right now. If the Panion Domin like adverts were honest, like that's what it would actually be.
There you go. Anything else about that part?
No.
Okay. Gruntle hangs back at the gate to make sure that no one follows Caruli's carriage. They meet some Barghast who are here investigating demons, which obviously are the Chain Shamal. They travel together, and that night, Hatan's like, okay, I'm going to ride you now.
Oh yeah.
And Gruntle's like,
He's like, I
hey,
have
I
another.
can't refuse that.
It's like I have no choice, do I? Don't they cover themselves in grease though? Aren't they like kind of a gross, like the bar
Yeah, they
guest?
covered themselves in grease, and then later on, Gruntle's like, that grease was a challenge last night.
Yeah, like nothing about the bar gas sound appealing that we've learned about him so far.
I mean, Hatan is funny.
It's true, she is. He has big hands.
Yeah.
Large hands.
Well,
Uh,
I think that might have been Erickson making a dick size joke because there's
probably.
that whole rumor that is probably not true that men with big hands are.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's what that was a reference to.
It
Erickson will
prob
occasionally just slip dick jokes in for his
oh, I'm
amusement.
sure. I just thought it was funny though that that's what kept getting brought up. I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
we already got one earlier with Stani telling Harlow that he's compensating with his two-handed sword.
oh yeah. Yep. Poor guy. Just getting bullied.
The Barghast bury trees upside down in hills.
I thought that was such a weird detail. Honestly, I was like, and they're just like, and then we write runes on him, and I was
We
like,
write runes on them. We
okay,
leave like the semblance of twigs, like so if the spirit does escape, it has some sort of a body. So that's
yep.
I think that's just like fun world building. Like you're in a fantasy
I
world. Why
know,
not have a culture that buries trees upside down?
I know. Like, why not just have it? Because there's one of those things. It's like imagine like you meet up with them and you're just going along. Like, I'm sure this isn't the case. You're just going along. They're like, yeah, see that tree over there? We did that. What do you mean you did
Mhm.
that? Well, you see, we bury trees upside down to stop spirits. And you're like, where did that logic come from? Like, let me just bury this tree upside down. That's gonna stop them.
Yep. And sometimes the spirits do escape and then appear in our elders' dreams. And was
Yep.
it one of these spirits that told you about the demons? Yep.
Yep, it was.
Yeah. And then we see the inside of Beauchelain and Coral Brooch's wrecked carriage. One trunk has a bunch of slate with a bunch of symbols carved into them. And then the other is a bunch of organs arranged in the semblance of a body as like a puppet.
Kind of weird.
So we know we know what all those grotesque murders were for.
Yep. Kind of strange. Once again.
I love that as they approach the carriage, Gruntle is talking to Hatan and is like, "Stay away from them." That's Beauchelain with the beard, and then Cobalbroach is he's the other one.
He's just the other guy
Y-
that's there.
yeah, Cobalbroach is a necromancer, and Beauchelain is a demon summoner.
Just pretty gnarly.
I love how Beauchelain describes the attack too. Like it's so gentlemanly, and like
I know.
he uses all this flowery language, and like unfortunately, I regret to say that we were forced to use our entire menagerie of creatures and demons, and it's unfortunate that most of them got destroyed. But what can you do?
I know. There he's the kind of guy that's pretty off-putting.
Oh,
Like
yeah, definitely.
you're always on edge around him. You're like that like the gentleman vibe. You're like, yes, but no. Who are you
Yeah.
really? What's your actual motive?
Well, he would be much less off-putting if he was if he like fit the bill of what you would think an evil demon summoner would should fit. Like it's way more off-putting that he's like polite and uses language and like
Yeah,
uses flowery gentleman like language, I should say.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I understand that, but I'm like, yeah, it's pretty like every time I read him and we're around him, I'm like, I don't like this guy. He's
No,
weird.
yeah.
But
And Buke is like, yeah, we're all gonna die tonight.
he just puts it quite plainly.
Hmm.
And then it happens.
Then it happens. So Stunny takes because Stunny, after finding out that Hitan is just like betting everyone. First of all, Emancipor Reese is like, we've got 2 nights to the city, and there's three of us. I'm gonna be the last one picked, aren't I? And then Sunny takes knee talk because Kafal's about to say, yeah, he hasn't had a woman yet. And they come back, and Grunt is like, not enough time. And Sunny's kind of like, well, it was his first time. Yeah, so then the change Shmal attack, and they're insanely quick, and not much that they can do.
Nope, not at all. We see Carilio is his name.
Karuli,
Caruli use a little bit of his power,
does
or
he?
try to. I think so. He like pulls the dagger out.
Oh yeah, he like slices his palm and tells them to stay close to him.
Yeah,
The Bargas lances like explode one,
he had some cool weapons.
which is fun. But yeah, Gruntle one hit and his wrist is shattered and his swords are gone.
Just gone, which is just insane.
Yep, Harlow jumps in front of the next one, and then Gruntle is pierced by the talons, dragged along the ground, and it's like, huh, it's gone dark. So is the light out, or am I dying?
I know. And then
And
it's over.
that's where we end.
Yeah. The Kachin Shamal though, they're an ancient race. They're an elder race presumed to be extinct, right?
Yep, they're one of the founding races.
Okay. And they are the Dino people.
Yep.
Cool. So cool. It's like, why not? Why not?
Yep. Why not? Just throw everything. It's fantasy. Like, what are people gonna do? Complain it doesn't make sense?
It doesn't make sense. It's the worst book ever. It's terrible.
Like there is a part of me that really loves and enjoys Brandon Sanderson's approach to magic, or other
Same.
authors that do it where it has specific rules and it almost becomes a science. But I also really love that Malazan is just like, here's a smorgasbord of everything you could think of.
I know. I think it's so much fun, the comparison. Like part of me, it bothers me the Warrens just because of how much they're used and how much they just don't make sense but make sense. But then at the same time, I just love it that we get like all these big like we got Anime Rake, he's a dragon. And he has a sword that captures souls. Like there's just so many cool details. But then you get Sanderson with this massive interconnected universe. There's like laws within laws of how things work. Like I think it's pretty cool, kind of how the two different systems work. And I think they're
Yeah.
both very entertaining.
And Malazan as well. It's like just in this book already, we have dinosaurs with swords for arms. We've got two very off-putting like necromancer creepy dudes.
Yep.
We've got a culture that buries trees upside down in the ground. We've got Animander Rake. We've got a hammer that could destroy the world.
We got the Jagut people and the end of their civilization, but we see the T'lan Imass in their original place and like that they've outlived their gods. Like it's not a concept. I feel like outliving your god isn't a concept I've really seen or heard of too much. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we've got gods cursing a king and destruction so powerful it had to be sent to its own warren.
Yep.
We've got a new being that has 3 souls inside of her that's sucking the life force away from her mother.
You got a chosen hero that doesn't want to be, but like that's a legitimate key player in a bigger picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Then
that
there's
is
Kruppe.
the yep. Then there's Krupp,
There's
the
Kruppe.
super fat mage that outwitted everyone in that council
Seriously though,
while acting dumb the entire time.
he's a madman, a genius.
He might be a bit of both, but also I think he's genuinely the fat guy that loves food.
I think so too. I think that's like a legit part of him. He's just like because at the party he was asleep with the food.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that is the longest we've ever recorded. I'm kind of stretching it out until 9 o'clock so we can say that we've recorded for 2 hours.
Trying to think of what else.
We've only got a minute left.
Only 1 minute.
But those of you that know, or Malazan veterans, if you go look up what's in chapter 8, you'll understand why I was like, I kind of picked chapter 8 to collaborate with D&J's Epic Quest for. So if you want our thoughts on that chapter, go to their podcast. They're also on YouTube and anywhere you can get your podcasts. But
Yep,
I think that's all for this week.
that is. So how's that, Todd?